Welcome to the Premium Mindset, the weekly podcast where homegrown entrepreneurs and business owners, Ritchey and Cameron Bawden, share the good, the bad, and the ugly of modern entrepreneurship and reveal what really happens behind the scenes of their personal and professional lives. As owners of two of America's fastest growing and most disruptive companies, Coconut Cleaning and Green Mango Pest Control, stay tuned for real stories, struggles, insight, and advice from real entrepreneurs in real time.
I would like to welcome everyone to today's podcast and episode in which we address the topic of balance. And I'm excited to talk about this topic because I feel like at times I have created the illusion that the harder I work, the more balance I could create. And I'm ultimately coming to the realization that balance probably will never exist. And there are different seasons in which there will be more family, more fun, and there are seasons of grinding a little bit more and working a little bit more. It's all congruent to what goals we have and what ambitions we have for our scaling the companies and in the direction that we're going. And so if I could tee off this topic and talk really quick about franchising. So, I feel like you taught me this principle early on in entrepreneurship where instead of just hiring a commercial salesman, you would say, go sell commercial for a couple months, learn the ins and out. And then when you hire a salesperson, you'll know how to, one, hold them accountable, and two, you'll know how to gauge the results that they should be getting if they're not the owner, and you'll be able to hold them accountable to it. I feel like this new season of life is we're trying to sell franchises. My inclination is find someone else to sell the franchises. Go out, network with brokers, network with firms, find people that are just stuck doing door-to-door pest control and sell them on the dream and vision of taking Coconut to a location and starting their own franchise location. However, the tried and true principle of doing it before we find the position for it is proving to be true right now, where I feel like I'm doing probably 80% of the franchising process, and you've been so kind to help with some of it, but also to come to Atlanta with me. And I would say the next 3 months will probably be more busy because the brokers that we are working with are saying, hey, we'll probably send you 5 to 10 leads a week. And what that now means for me and Sabina is that we're going to be contacting these people, having 30-minute to 1-hour conversations and vetting them to see if they're right for the franchising process. And so I can almost...
your will's about to be jacked up.
Yeah, it's about to be jacked up. And balance will not exist at this time.
Wow.
However, I guess that's a good question. Balance is, to me, it's the idea that...
What are you going to, like, when you say balance, what's going to suffer?
My mental health.
That's not a category.
I feel
well-being
like
is. I'm just playing.
I would say what could suffer, or where 10 to 15% needs to come off in certain categories, has more to do with Green Mango, Coconut Phoenix, personal time, or time that I would say is normally my personal time. 10% is kind of being chipped away at some of those areas in terms of time. And it's going to be allotted to the selling of these franchises. But I will say, because balance is a funny topic, that the very act of doing these things kind of levels up my capabilities in certain areas. And so maybe I'm spending a couple hours less per week on Green Mango or Coconut Phoenix or at my house, but the concentration and quality of that time might be increased because of my ability to stay more focused and say, hey, now at night, my night is really starting at 7 p.m. now instead of 5:30 p.m. From 7 to 10 p.m., I'm going to be that much more appreciative of this time, and I'm going to make sure my kids get the quality time. You know, whoever I'm spending my time with is going to get that much more concentrated time. So I guess That is a good question in terms of balance, which is it really time or is it the quality of time that you're spending?
In 2018 was when I hired my life coach.
Mm.
Spent over $100,000 a year to have this guy coach me 4 hours a month. The first thing that he introduced to me was the balance wheel. And that to me shows how important that is to have in your life. And it wasn't until 2019 to where I went back at rock bottom and reanalyzed the balance wheel and how important it was.
Are you able to give like a summary of that? Like even I could use
Which part?
like the balance wheel.
So in 2018, first lesson, first class, hey, take a score of your balance wheel. Okay, it talks about finances, it talks about relationships, it talks about religion, well-being, personal relationships like with your spouse and family.
Okay.
And I'm probably forgetting one or two more. And then you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. And as you rate yourself, a 7 here, a 6 here, a 3 there, a 2 there, it gives you a score at the end. And my balance wheel was, maybe a 10 on career and a 2 on health and fitness. And so the goal is to have a perfectly round will. And that's what makes it a balanced will life. And so to answer your question, and this is what stood out to me, is that it's better to have a 2 all around, which 0 is the worst score you can have, but it's better to have 2s in every single category rather than a 9 over here and a 3 over there.
Really? Can you explain that to me?
Well, in 2019, I talk about it being the hardest, loneliest time as an entrepreneur in 2019. The weight of the world was on my shoulders. We started 5 companies in the last 2 years, and I was sinking. I was underwater. And so at a last ditch effort, I went back to this balance wheel, and I was that guy that had 8s and 7s in a lot of my categories, but also 2 and 3s in most of them. And what was crazy is in 2018, I thought that as long as I have and make money, everything else works out. 2019 was when I made the most money I ever had, but yet I was the lowest I've ever been. And that's where I really started to buckle down on having a balanced will and working on the white space, which is your lower scores.
This is such a unique topic to me because it's not even about agreement or not a non-agreement. It's more so just a paradigm shift to that it is better to have 5s all around than it is to have 10 and 2, 10 and 2, 10 and 2, which is that's a unique concept to wrap my head around. And I think you give the best example that you were at a peak financially at the time. And then you look at the other aspects of life, whether it's health, family, and I don't know the other subjects, but that to you was your proof that it didn't matter what was in the bank account. If these other areas were suffering, you were not in equilibrium with your peace and in your life. And that's something like, what about the person that says, well, it's easy for you to say after you have the money in the bank, now you have time to go back and touch on the family area, touch on the spiritual area. What about the guy who's like, man, I'm just zen in my spiritual life, but my bank account's 0. I feel like that's harder to take away from the spiritual and start focusing more on the finance than it is for someone who's made it at the peak of the financial world and then to kind of scale back and reconnect with family, friends, things like that. Like, what do you say to the person that says, hey, well, of course that realization comes once the money's in the bank, but I can't seem to get that money in the bank, and so I have to keep grinding. You don't understand, Cameron. I need to keep going.
Why do you need more money in the bank? Why do you need to keep grinding?
Dang it. Well, let's hypothetical. Someone else.
The end goal, right, is happiness.
Yeah.
They think that, which is what I thought. If I make all this money, everything else works out because I'll be happy. Money equals happiness. It's not the case. If you were like, our buddy Bryson, who I work out with, I think I could confidently say health and fitness is the number one thing. As long as I have my health and fitness, I'm happy. Well, then he doesn't have any money and he's miserable because he's worried about his bills. So whatever category you choose, it doesn't matter if you're a 10 in that category, you're going to be miserable if something else is missing. And that's why it's better to have 2 or 3s, because it's well balanced. You have maybe just enough money to pay your rent, but you're able to still have health and fitness or a good relationship with your wife and spending time with your kids. And all those things together is what creates the happiness. It's easier for the guy to say that made all the money to now go back and analyze his life because he checked that box. Well, he's still miserable. And if the end goal wasn't about making money, I wanted to make money because I thought that's what equaled happiness. I wasn't happy. I was more depressed and miserable than I ever been before. Even though I made more money, I could go buy any car I wanted. I'd go out on any vacation I wanted, but I was at an all-time low and I couldn't even enjoy it because of that. So why would I want that?
This is what Bradley would say, dropping bombs right here, man. Dropping little nuggets. So to that person who feels like they're in the rat race of financial security, but they're just so happy in their apartment with their spouse. Let's pretend that they are. And again, now I'm analyzing this new information. Let's pretend that they don't have all the happiness they could because some of the finances aren't there. They're not being totally irresponsible, but they're both making $40,000, and they can't ever do things beyond their own means. But they're so happy in their marriage and they're just dancing every night.
But they're barely paying rent.
Yes.
Cool. You're never going to be 5s all the way around or 7 all the way around. So if you're describing this couple that's a 3 all the way around or a 4 all the way around, go make finance a 4 or 5 and have a little out of bounds. So, and then once you get that to 5, go work on the other things to 5. And just slowly start. So for me in 2019, my 2 lowest were health and fitness.
Which
so
is
then
crazy,
I committed to doing Ironmans and all the different fitness regimens that I wanted to do.
So I would imagine training for an Ironman, the amount of time you have to put in running meant less time with Liz.
Yeah.
And so you knew you had her bought in on the vision, and you knew that, hey, I'm gonna put this time away. I'm gonna go on these 5 to 10 mile runs, and I'm gonna be gone for the next couple hours.
6-minute miles.
6 minutes.
I'm just kidding.
Don't do that. Okay. So you get her bought in on the vision.
So my commitment to fill the gap of time with family and relationships was that I'll be home at 5 o'clock every night for the first time ever. 5 to 7 when the kids are awake before they go to bed.
Homework just got done.
Yeah. And they don't do much homework. Let's be honest. 5 to 7, I come home, I shine. Put the kids to bed, go on a run.
So what's your
Date
advice?
Night every weekend.
I feel like I shared this with you the other day. One of the most watched category on YouTube is the word motivation, which tells me that a lot of people feel stuck. So what's your advice to the individual who
I thought you'd never ask.
Maybe doesn't have everything going for them and they're like, man, where do I start? Is it health and fitness? Is it creating a clear financial plan?
The lowest at.
So how do you, if I don't have access to Mark Fournier and I don't have $100,000, which of course everyone does.
You need to increase your career.
Don't do that. Kidding. Okay. So they don't have access to Mark Fournier. Like, how do they take a self-analysis of what category to start with?
Well, what's cool is I found this out yesterday because I had the entire team at Agave take the test. And I emailed Mark. I said, hey, can I use your test? Because every balance wheel, if you search it on Google, has a little bit different categories. The one that Mark puts out is the one that I love the most. And so I said, hey, can I use your balance wheel? And if so, do you mind emailing it to me again, a blank one? He's like, hey, I'll do you one better. I came out with an app. You just go to the app store. You type in balanced life, like a balanced life. I'll get it for sure so we can put it on there. Life balance test. Type in life balance test on the app store. It's a free app. You go in, and what's cool is he's put all of his literature that I paid $100,000 for on there about a balanced life for free.
Thank you.
So there you go. That's that. I just can't. But yeah.
Okay. So someone who doesn't necessarily feel like they can create a single landmark in an area of life, you're saying take a test.
Take a test, see where you're weak, and then where you're weak. Mine was health and fitness. And so I committed to this thing, which was the Ironman. And I knew that I think I trained for 8 or 9 months, but I started to talk about it. I asked people to hold me accountable to it. Now I'm committed to it, right? Anyone that's lost weight or has a goal, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds by January 1st, you're telling people because you want their accountability. So I committed to the Ironman. And then this is where I love, and I've been talking about this, creating rhythms. So then I started to create a rhythm. I'd lift weights in the morning, I'd put the kids to bed, and I'd go on a run every single night. And this became a rhythm. And eventually, as it became a rhythm and I started to see the effects I would have on my personal life in a good way, because when I'm running, my mind is clear for the first time. And it was amazing for me. I'd always come home and tell Liz how much I appreciate her. And she loved it. I'd be like, Liz, I was on this run and I was thinking about, how much I appreciate you doing this and that, because it put me in a state of gratitude for whatever reason. But for me, that's what it was. And then it became a sacred rhythm because I didn't let anything get in the way. Hey, can you come play pickleball tonight? Can you come play basketball? Can you come out to dinner? No, I have to run 7 miles tonight. No, I can't. And so it became a sacred rhythm that I loved. And that's what is so powerful, and recognize the will. If you're honest in the test, it'll expose who you are and where you're weak at. And then if you truly want to change, I wasn't ready to change in 2018. It didn't take until 2019 when I hit rock bottom to say, okay, I need to focus on something here. Choose your lowest one, choose a goal that people can help hold you accountable, and start to create these rhythms in your life. Make them so consistent that it becomes sacred to you. And then you have a recipe for success. Now I've been working out consistently, I can say for sure the last 4 years, off and on for the past, like that first year, 5 years total.
I love it. So would you say balance is the goal?
For sure. Absolutely. 100%.
I started the podcast with one belief system and I finish it with a different one. Balance is the goal. We'll see where I stand, in a couple months, but I love it. What's the app again?
Life Balance Test.
Life Balance Test.
It's a blue box with a sideways 8.
Okay. So good. That's
Life
a good
balance test.
Good start, good foundation for getting started and knowing where you should start and execute at that point.
I love it, man.
That's how the cookie crumbles. I'm so tired.
I love the balance wheel, man. It's such a great topic.
What a farce, man. Balance is not.